Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Over to you.
Good morning, Chair. This morning, our first witness is Mr. Mujid Aziz Faisal.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Aziz Faisal. Can you see and hear me clearly?
Sure, yes. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning. My name's Christine. I'm an usher, and I'm going to take you through the affirmation. Can you repeat after me? I do solemnly,
I do solemnly,
sincerely and truly
sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Ruth Kennedy, and I ask questions on behalf of the inquiry. Have you got a copy of your witness statement there with you?
I do, yes.
I think it should be dated the 11th of January 2022, is that right?
It is correct.
And is that your signature on the last page?
Yes, it is.
Have you read through this statement recently?
I have, yes.
And is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is, yes.
Just starting with a couple of introductory questions about you. How old are you now?
I'm 46 years old now.
How long have you been married to your wife?
15 years.
How many
That-
children? How many?
We
Sorry.
got married in September 2006.
And how many children do you have?
I have five daughters.
Where were you born?
I was born in India.
What did you come to the UK to do?
Initially, I came to pursue my further education in computer science, which I did successfully. Yes.
And what types of jobs did you have prior to working for the post office?
I had numerous jobs, but mainly providing IT support, which I was self-employed and I was providing IT support, building computers, installing hardwares and computer softwares, building networks, dealing with internet issues like taking off viruses and malwares, internet security, and also I have helped many people in web designing and also office product like Microsoft Word, Excel, and also I have designed small database for the people. Yeah. So that was my hobby as well, and I was earning from there as well.
Why did you want to buy a post office?
The reason being, me and my missus were always, because I was self-employed most of the time, and I wanted to do a business where I can earn very smart, but, and also the main reason was there was a guaranteed income from the post office side. Before, buying the post office, I have inquired or I have did my investigation regarding the businesses, and I found this was the best business because there was a guaranteed income coming from the post office side, and meanwhile I could build up my retail business as well beside which. And I also had in my mind that the basic cost of the business would be covered from the post office side, and I can save the money from whatever I will, whatever money I'll be earning from the retail side. That was my main objective. And also, there's no doubt that post office is a government organization and it is a trusted organization. And I felt that working with a reputed organization would be very beneficial for me and for my family.
Which post office did you buy?
409 Harris Road in Sheffield.
I think was that called Norwood Post Office?
It is Norwood Post Office, yes.
And when did you buy it?
It was in September 2015, but it took a long process to buy that. I initiated to buy that one in 2014 when I came back from visiting my mom from India.
So you applied in 2014 and it took some time for the process to complete?
Yes, yes.
And what services did you offer in your post office?
My branch was the main post office. So I had passport check-in service, withdrawal, cash deposit, insurance, stamps, travel insurance, like all sort of DVLA, all sort of services, basically. Yes, and also my post office is being chosen for BRP cards. The people, they come from for work or for studies. We issue their BRP cards down there. So it is one of the selected post office in a wide area.
What training did you receive when you took over your post office?
It was 3 days training in near Manchester, Stockport. And in there we were told about some of the, like DVLA. We were not fully explained about those products, yes, or other products, but mainly they gave us training like how to use Horizon system, basically. Some of them, like if somebody want to withdraw cash, then we can, how to deal with that, or sending parcel or sending mails, measurements of parcel measurements, like how big it should be or how small it should be. If it is not parcel, it's a large letter, or so many, Sorry, I'm getting away from your question. Your question was, what training did they give? So it was a minimal training, basically, about some of the products, which mainly it is a daily transactions, basically. Most of the customer, what they will be dealing with, like withdrawing their pensions, sending letters or parcels, things like that.
How did you find using the Horizon system for those things?
The front screen was okay, but the back office was pretty much difficult because we were not trained for how to print a report, how to print statements, like if I want to see the losses, or if I want to see how much my business has done, all those reports, I was not trained for that. No, it was only they trained us like end of the day declaration, and the reports comes automatically, and those sort of things. I can't remember much of, because I learned most of the components of the Horizon when I was there on the actual job, and most of the time I had the previous staff there, so they taught me.
And what shortfalls or balancing issues did you start to have?
On the first I remember it was £400 in the first week when when I was getting trained, in front of the trainer, we had that shortfall, 400-pound shortfall, and we seek the help. We couldn't understand what it is. So my trainer could not even help us to find out where the shortfall is. Rather, something strange happened on that day.
After that, how often did you notice shortfalls or discrepancies?
Like every now and then, every week, I could say, because most of the time we had to put money like between 50 to 100 pound now and then. We used to pay because there was no option on the Horizon system. Sometimes, it gives us a chance to declare it centrally. Sometimes it don't say that I have to declare it centrally. It just asks us to make up the payment. So if it is a big loss, then definitely we used to have that option declared centrally, or make it as a good cash, or send them a check or something like that. But it was every week I used to have that sort of losses, yes. And I have I have seen the losses, £1,000, £3,000, even similar to those amount as well. But they were not every time. They were like on the few times they were, but mostly I had 600, 500, 300, 200, between these range. Most of the time I had, yes.
What use did you make of the helpline?
Pardon me, could you?
The helpline, what use did you make of the helpline?
We used to, initially we called them, but on the first week of our work, when we lost over 400 pounds and we seek the help of the trainer, she could not identify what happened. And the point I want to mention is here, we were nervous, and she said, she opened her bag and she showed us, like, I'm not taking any money with me. And that gave me a very bad impression, because a trainer, if she is doubting that we are doubting her of stealing money, that is not acceptable. She should have helped us to locate that money. So after that, I thought, like in my mind, it was like, even if this trainer cannot help us, nobody can help us. So I did call my missus. She was basically, most of the time, she was in charge of the post office side. And because I was looking after the shop side and customers, and I was serving customers, both in the shop side and the post office side as well. So she used to make most of the call to the head office, and they used to always say, you have to tell me. At one occasion, they told, you have to tell me where that money is. And usually they say, when I spoke to the office, they always told me, like, look, you might have, miscounted it, or even sometimes they say it will come, if it is down today, it could be tomorrow, it will be okay, or next week when you balance, it should be okay. These sort of answers I used to get. And because I had previous staff with me, so they helped me a lot as well, and they knew that this money never come back. My staff, they used to check all those, like, we used to compare, like, where this money is gone. We used to take out all the reports, check. Even we used to check our camera. We might have given somebody, like, mistakenly, somebody has we have given about more money or something like that. We checked entire system, but we were not successful. We could never ever find where the money is gone. It can happen only one time, twice, like, okay, my mistake, we have given some money to, but not every time or every week.
I think you previously mentioned that most of the shortfalls were for smaller amounts, but you mentioned one incident in your statement with your wife, a shortfall of £3,700. Would you tell the chair about that, please?
We had a massive loss of 3,700. So we were very afraid, like, where this money is gone. And my missus, she rang the post office, and they said, the person, he was like very aggressive or very rude to my missus, and he said, you should be telling us where that money is. Rather, we tell you. You are running the post office. Similar, in a similar tone. So from that, we were put back, like, from whom we can get the help. There's no help at all available to us. And later on, when I heard that, because either my staff or my missus, whoever is, working with me, should not be dealt like improperly, or somebody should not raise their voice over my staff. Yeah. So in the next like after 2 or 3 days, I spoke to someone on the phone because I had some problem, a problem with something, or maybe I was ordering stock or something like that. Then I clearly told the person on the other end that my staff was treated like not well, like how they should be treated. So then after that, I never heard that complaint, like my staff is being treated unwell over the phone.
I think you mentioned also that in 2018, a senior postmaster came to visit you and you told him about the shortfalls. What did he say?
Yes. We told him, like, we are having big losses. We are having big losses. So basically, he told us to keep an eye on the staff, firstly. Secondly, he asked me to keep an eye on the staff, and like he told me to clear the screen after every transaction, so that you don't have any other transaction, which we knew already. Yeah. And when he told me that keep an eye on my staff, I said, no, this is not right, because my staff, one of the staff, he went for 3 weeks to, he was on holiday for 3 weeks. In between that time, I had £1,000 loss, and also £700 loss in the stock stamps. So, like, I don't know whom to trust. Like, I know my staff very well, because I know them very well, because they are just like family to me. And because I was going to that post office, I knew, the previous postmaster and their family as well. Like, there was no family connection, but I knew them because I used to, go to that post office. So there was no, like, I can't doubt on my staff, yes, because I knew what's going on. I have checked many times, numerous times, the camera, yes. And also, so he suggested me all those, and he also told me his story about, about his staff and stuff like that. But I said, I thought that it's not it's not true, basically.
How much do you think that you paid the post office to make good the shortfalls in total?
What I have recorded, but some of, most of the time we had to pay 50 or 100 pound from our pocket. So I don't have those records. But 29,000, around 29,000 I have paid to post office. Like big amounts like 1,000, 3,000, 4,000, around 10,000 pound more on top of that, I can say. So 39,000, which I can say yes.
You were audited in February 2016. Is that right?
Yes, it is, yes.
How many auditors attended?
There were 2 auditors.
When did they arrive?
They came around 10 o'clock, yes. Because we were already open, our staff was working, and they just came and they showed us their ID and they said, we want to check your cash. And we said, okay. So they took about 2 hours, good 2 hours to check our cash. And I was calm. I said, okay, but my colleagues, not colleagues, like the previous staff, they were just be shaky, and I could notice what is going on. So I couldn't understand what's going on. Then, so they were for 2 hours they were there, yes, checking my cash.
And what were you told was the result of that audit?
They told us, they came, because I was in the front, front side of the shop, and everybody was there because they said, they cannot come in and stuff like that. So they told me that you are missing, your branch is missing 3,000 pounds, or you are short of 3,000 pounds. I said, how come? It cannot happen. And then my colleague, he realized that they might have not counted some of the money, because we bring the money for we don't keep all the cash with us. We keep only limited cash with us for 1 hour or 2 hours. Then we bring if we go and bring the cash from our main safe. So basically, my staff, they showed him, you are miscounting because we have this cash as well, 3,000 pounds. And then they counted again all the cash and they said, you are right. But still, they said, you are 200 pounds short. And they warned us, like, if you were 2,000, like couple of thousands or 1,000 pounds short, then we could have prosecuted you. When I heard that, like, I couldn't believe my ears, like, what's going on? Why will I be prosecuted? And there was no apology, nothing from them. It just went.
How did you feel about that?
That was, then I discussed that one with my previous colleague. They have worked there for ages there. After that, I was shocked. I was very nervous. I was numb. Then, we were very, very careful. Like, we were careful before as well, but after this incident, because we were short of 200 pounds, I was very careful. When they warned me, I was like, me and my missus, we were very, very careful, like, money should not go anywhere, and also, I forgot. Sorry, just one more, please. Basically, I was very nervous. I thought that, they can come anytime. And even my these my colleagues just told me they can come anytime, they can check your cash, and if it is short, they can penalize you and all those stuff. When I heard, then I went deep into these investigations, like what is going on, what had happened to other postmasters, and I learned most of the stories. And I was very nervous. I was like taking a lot of precautions after that.
And just to be clear, the audit that you've just described, I think, happened in April 2016. Is that right?
I think it was February or April. February, I think.
I think you say in your statement you were initially audited in February and then in April, but it was all around the same time in 2016, was it?
Yes. Things, post office basically working in the every day I had to like our post office is so busy. We had customers between 200 to 300 customers every day. So it's that busy post office. I have described everything in my statement. Similar to that. We had 2 audits, yes.
And then I think you were audited again in September 2019, is that right?
Yes, that was a very big blow on me because I knew that my post office is balanced correctly, everything is fine. Because of the previous experience I had, and I never wanted to face any kind of prosecution. But still, when they came, they found out that I was 7,000 plus short in my branch, yes. And mainly it was from scratch cards or the lottery system. And they wanted to prosecute me for that. And I said that I was not trained for the lottery system. And I got this training from my previous staff. I was declaring everything fine, everything like how it should be. But I don't know how they found that I was short of 7,000 plus in the scratch card or lottery machine.
And what did they ask you to do?
They asked me to pay it immediately, or they told me that they will suspend me, or you cannot operate the office. And I was really panicking at that time. Like, if they take the key, I have, like, because I have taken, hold on, please. Because I have hefty loan over my head. And the lease was in my name because that building, that post office I was paying rent. It was not my own post office. I mean, I was paying for the premises. Hefty loan. I have borrowed money from my family and friend on numerous occasions to run this post office. So they told me, you cannot, and like, certainly I was, and I had in my mind from the previous, like, they will prosecute me. And I knew that they could prosecute me. And like, I was very panicking. I said, whatever you want, I will just give it to you because I don't want that tag on me that I went to prison or something like that. It was coming in my mind. And I said, okay, I will. And then I went home. I got my checkbook. I wrote a check to them. And that money was also not my money, because it was, I was, sorry, one moment, please. I'll just,
Close the blinds, I've noticed. Please take a moment.
sorry about that. So I went home, came back with the check, and gave them the check. And I think they realized that I was not aware of that. The those machines, scratch card, and then they did not prosecute me, or they said, okay, we'll give you this chance, you can operate the branch. And yes, and also after I gave them check, or before I gave them check, or something like that, I can't remember, but I overheard that they were speaking about £10,000 up in my system. It means that the £10,000 is mine. And like my ears became like elephant, when you hear a good news that, oh, I'm up. Then I inquired. I told that auditor, is it up by £10,000? He said yes. And I could not had a chance, because I was so much frightened that in what system it is coming up, whether either it is in my cash, either it is in ATM cash, or either it is a stock cash. And I still regret, I should have asked where that, where that money was coming from. Like my system was up by £10,000.
What did you decide to do after that audit?
It was very painful, on the same day. They went about 1:30, and then, okay, I will tell you one thing. Thank you. On that audit day, I had to close all my shop. I lost earning of that day. My employee, they turned up. I had to pay them for the whole day. Okay, that I lost. Okay, I had to pay post office £7,000. That I lost. Okay, after half two they were there, or two, I can't exactly remember. Me and my former colleague, we counted all the cash, and we were not short. We were not short. Okay. Then I was so much I was traumatized, basically. I was in shock. And then I did not work a whole day. I sent my staff and said, just go, let me relax. And then I put the shutter down and went back to the to house. Also on that day, so many people were outside. When they saw that label, you can operate you can go to other post office. So people were like complaining, people were shouting, saying, why are you keeping our money in your post office? We need our money, and things like that. We need our services. Even people, they came far away to collect their BRPs, and we had to send them back. There is so much of disruption when these things happen. And as soon as I went home, and my missus, I discussed with my missus all these things, and we said immediately, immediately we have to sell this post office by hook or by crook, because And previously we tried. We knew all this situation. We tried. We were not able to get that what do you call, like, that price. And soon after this 2019, we said we have to sell it anyway, even, or if we can't sell it, just dispose it off, just put the shutter down and go. Today it is like, one day it was 200, the next time it is 7,000, and we are also injecting cash from our own pocket. And third time, I end up in jail. So we never won, because I only have one brother in Sheffield, and my entire family is in India or in Saudi Arabia, because I grew up over there. So I have 5 kids to look after. I have 5 kids to look after, and I could not run the whole business. And even after, like, I had so many worries in my mind. And also, I want to mention, during those days after 2019, I started watching on YouTube those stories of inmates and what happens in the prison and all those. I was watching, like, I was very frightened, in case if they put me in jail, what will my family will do? I have very young kids, and I am a graduate from university. These all sort of things went in my mind. Sorry, I'm going too much.
No, please don't apologise.
Please ask me some other questions so that.
How much did you sell your business for?
Before selling that, I wanted to just give the business to one of the colleagues for free. I said, just you can run it. And he said no. He knew all these. And then I just wanted to put the shutter down. So he said, don't do that, because if I do that, everybody will be on your shoulder. Bank will come to you, people will come back to you for your money, and also the lease, which was in my name. So lease was in my name, so they will be coming for you. So at least sell it for some, like, don't dispose it off or don't give it for free. Sell it for some money, which you can at least pay to post office, and the lease in your name can be transferred to some other. So you are at least safe from one side. I said, that's a good, good thought. So in haste, I tried, from 120 to even 60,000, 120,000. Then I tried selling it for 60,000, tried even 45,000. And then in the end, I had to sell it for 15,000.
How much money did you lose as a result of that?
If you want, sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
How much money did you lose as a result of selling your business for £15,000?
I lost a lot of money. Like, if you ask me investment money, then clearly 120 take away 15. So it is 105,000 initially from the investment. And I lost a lot of money, like in putting cash and all those, and even stock, buying process, money was involved in there, brokerage fee and stuff like that. So if you ask me investment money, then it is £105,000.
And who needed to approve the sale of the post office?
Pardon me?
Who needed to approve the sale of your post office?
Who needed to approve?
I think you say in your statement the post office had to approve the person you would sell the post office to. Is that right?
Yeah. Like news of postmaster, yeah.
Yes.
In two, like I had two occasions. One, a buyer, he just said, I don't want to buy. And one buyer, he was appointed as a postmaster. And later on, after hearing all these news, he said, I don't want to buy the post office. So that was one, two occasions. And one, and the other one, in the end, like post office agreed, the other sub postmaster who bought it for 15,000 years.
I'm going to ask you some more questions about the financial impact that this has had on you. You've mentioned loans you took out. Could you tell us...
Ms. Kennedy, before you do that, can I just interrupt for 1 second? Because I want to understand the context a little more, if I may, Mr. Faisal.
Thank you.
I think that later on in your statement, you've said that you became one of the claimants in the group litigation. Yeah?
Yes.
Can you tell me, were you a member of the group litigation from the outset, or did you join as the case was going on?
No, in the beginning I joined because...
That's all right. So you were a
Yes.
claimant
Yes.
from the time that it joined?
Yes.
Sorry, from the time that the claim started.
Yes.
And so does it follow that the audit which you had in 2019, when you told me you were being threatened with prosecution unless you paid on that day, was at a time when you were a litigant in that litigation?
I was,
Yeah.
Yes, I was, yes. My Honor, I want to tell you one thing, why I joined this litigation.
Well, I
Though
don't
was running, yes.
Just stay with me for a moment, and then Ms. Kennedy will take over again. But I just wanted to be clear that you were a claimant against the post office,
Yes.
complaining about Horizon,
Yes.
at a time when, in effect, your evidence is that they were threatening you with prosecution unless you paid up on the day.
Yes.
That's right, is it?
Yes.
Fine.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Kennedy.
You've mentioned loans you took out. Could you tell us a bit more about the loans you took out?
I had to take loans on numerous occasions because I could not concentrate on my post on the site. Even post office, I had to pay post office a lot of money. I had to pay wages and rents and other things like insurances. Around £25,000 I owe people, yes.
How are you now financially?
Still, I am struggling financially, though after selling the post office in 2020, September 2020. Since that, I am very depressed. I have a lot of high blood pressure. I am working here and there just to adjust myself, yes. And also I'm preparing myself to go back to IT, which is very difficult at my age.
The chair's already asked you some questions about the group litigation.
Yes.
How much money did you receive as a settlement in that litigation?
It was 7,000 and 7,500, yes.
What impact has all of this had on your mental health?
Honestly speaking, I I tend, like, my short-term memory is lost. If you ask me some question, I'm very nervous. I can't answer you. Things like these happen. People ask me my name and just staring at their face. Uh, I will tell you incidents like I drive car and on the signal, I just stop. Whether it is the green, sometimes it is green, but I'm not going. I just go and, like I'm driving, my signal is green, but still I'm stopping there. I don't know where my mind is, So I get horn from the, from the other drivers. Even my missus, my kids, they say, Baba, why are you stopping there? It is green, go. And then I, realize that, oh, why am I stopping things? And I'm having level 3 of high blood pressure. I'm taking like 10 mg of different sort of medicines. My what do you call it? My just one moment, please. I have anxiety. Doctor has diagnosed that I have depression, but I don't want to be on those antidepressant pills. So I asked them, like, if you can treat me differently. So they have given me some medicine for anxiety, to reduce anxiety, and also I can't sleep in this. I have sleepless nights. I have, you might find a ghost every day, every night walking in my house, from checking all the doors. Every night I do this for 5-6 times, I only hardly sleep 3-4 hours sleep in whole night, and always confused because there is a hefty load on my shoulders. It's not my money, it's public money, which I have borrowed from the bank or from the people. And I have to clear, and honestly, like, I'm so much depressed. Let me please mention one thing, because I follow my religion, yes. And in my religion, if I die without paying my debts, my funeral should not take place. I should be buried without taking the funeral. This is like when I feel those things, like, because I feel very sad, if we don't know when, like, I don't know when I will be in this, departing from this world. So before that, I need to clear all my debts. And I swear by God, I never keep anybody's money in my pocket. No. So many incidents happen in the post office, like people sometimes forget, to take change. And I told them, this is your change. Even once there was 50 pound, okay. A customer came to us and he took the money, those foreign cash, and he went away without taking his 50 pound back. And my colleague, he told me. So after 3 weeks, I saw him he never came to me for 3 or 4 weeks. I saw him in the pizza shop and I told him, did you came to my post office for, how was your journey? I said, oh yeah, it was fine. How do you know? I said, I work in the post office. You came to collect the foreign cash. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, thank you very much for remembering me in this. I said, brother, I know your face. I have checked in the camera, and you did not take your 50 pound back. He said, oh, is it? oh, thank you for telling me that. And then he came back after 2 or 3 days, and I gave him the. And similarly, in the shop site as well, when people sometimes they, they forget their change. They just in so much hurry. So I remember, and then I keep it in a small bag, those post office bags, money pouches, and I give them. And if you go in the post office, everybody knows me. Everybody know my nature. I will also say, sometimes people, they forget their cash in their cash machine, yes, and machine is beeping, and sometimes I go there and the money is, like money comes back. Sometimes people, they hand me with cash saying that somebody left it there, and I write the time and everything, and then ask if somebody comes, then I say, this is your money. And this happened about 2 or 3 occasions. I returned their money. So, like, I'm very clear, like, I don't want to keep anybody's money with me. I'm sorry, I'm just going too much.
Please don't apologise. What impact has this had on your family life?
Let me start with a very sad occasion. Once, because I used to run, post office. My timing was there were different timings. We changed many times the timings. So we closed the post office. We had a large discrepancy, and we were coming back, all of my kids and my wife. So I was so aggressive. I said, why don't the death come to me and take me? So, and my kids are in the back. I'm speaking my own language, like Urdu. And my missus, she says, why you? Let it come to me and I will go. I said, then who will look after the kids? She said, you. I said, no, I will go and work, and I have to find, source of income, and I have to get the money to look after my kids. Conversation going from here and there, and why we are thinking all those, about deaths and stuff. And my kids are sitting in the back, and my missus, she said, she laughed, and I said, why are you laughing? She said, she told me that we have kids in the back, and many times, and when we stop, talking about these in front of the kids, and like every time family life, if you say, we don't, like we were not sleeping together, because first reason, we end up in argument. For 3-4 hours, we just speak about the post office. So I was sleeping, on my sofa downstairs. And my kids, they also got very disturbed. They always ask me, Baba, when you are working so hard, Mom and Baba, you are working so hard, when you have like 12 hours working in the post office, why can't we go on holidays? Why can't we have good house? Why can't we have good car? Things like that. These questions were always on our ear. And what I have discovered, my elder children, when we go for shopping, they always see the price tag. If they like something, they just don't want to buy because of the price. And even they tell my other kids, like their younger siblings, like, Mama, Baba cannot afford this one because we don't have money. They don't have money. And my other kids, she's just in nursery, and the other one as well. So they just keep the things, and then after some time I have to go and get those things for them, because I know they are not too expensive, like 3-4 pound or 5 pound. Even 5 pound, it is too much for them.
What would you like from the post office now?
I have written some of the things which is on my table. Please let me read. I know it's a Horizon fault or IT fault, which they knew that there is a fault in the system. And because of this, most of the post office, they have suffered. Some of the post office, they even took their own life. I would say, Ms. Kennedy, if a person is a thief, he will never end up like, he will never take his life. Yeah, he will try to run away. We all are innocent, and I understand like people, they had to declare false declaration because I was in that situation. I used to make up the money, put it in, and declare it, make the books right. But a stage came when there was no money for me. And honestly speaking, I said, I'm not putting shop side money in the post office because my shop does not balance them. I don't know where the money, shop money, because my accountant says where this money is gone. And I say, it is gone. So he write it in my wages then. So excuse me. So basically, I want fair compensation from the post office because I have hefty loan on me. I have to pay bank utility bills, credit card bills. I have borrowed money from my friends. I have worked there like a bonded labor. What, like, if I tell you it was my business, no, it was not my business. The reason being, if I want to go holiday, I cannot take off from the post office. I have to employ someone. So I am paying from my own pocket to keep the post office running. But I was following all the restrictions and rules of the post office. So basically, I have worked for them. So for 5 consecutive years, I did not take any project from there or any money from there, yes, as my wages or my salary or my income. So I need that one as well. And I bought this post office, like I will retire over there, and like my retirement money is also gone.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the chair?
Thank you very much, my honor, for listening us. Most of the things I have covered, but I would like to address for those 7 years or these 7 years. My mom, she wanted to see my kids anxiously, and I had no money basically to take my kids to my mom. In those 5 or 6 years, I only visited my mom in 2019 before the pandemic for 10 days only. Yeah, because my mom kept me saying, "Beta, when are you coming? You always promise and you do not come." And when I went to her, when I was hugging her, she refused. She refused. I could feel that. I could feel that she refused me. Then she accepted me. It was about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I stayed with her for 10 days. Then I had to come back again. She told me so many stories, so many, so many things, so many poetries she read for me. And she always wanted to see my kids. She said, "Beta, are you bringing your kids? I want to see them." And she passed away last January, or 27th January. It was Sunday. She passed away. I was looking on her, on my brother's camera, like on WhatsApp. I could see her like mouth open and all those things. And a day before, she spoke to me and she said, "Beta, I want to see your kids." I can't tell her that I don't have money to bring them. On one occasion, when on 2019, when I was going to see her for 10 days, I also took, like, I applied for the visa for my daughter as well. And later on, I had to drop. Me and my daughter, we got visa, but eventually I had to drop because I had no money to, buy a ticket for my daughter. So this is a very painful moment. Like, I was called a businessman, but I was zero man, and I was working for this big organization. I had no money to even take my kids to my mom. She wanted to look like, she wanted to physically touch them and hug them. This moment I will always, always remember. And I feel guilty. Sometimes I think that I would have taken more loan from my friends or family and took them. But and also, Your Honor, I want to read a few lines in memory of my mom to all the postmasters. Please, if you allow me.
Yes, please.
It's a poetry written by Javed Akhtar. He's a lyricist in India. He says, hold on, please. My heart may be unsuccessful. My heart may be unsuccessful, but it's not despair. Even though evening of grief is long, even though evening of grief is long, but it's only an evening. This journey is exceedingly hard. This journey is exceedingly hard. This night of tyranny is about to pass. This darkness of sorrow is about to dissolve. It may take some time, but don't be sad, my friend. These difficulties shall not always be with us. Our destination is just around the corner. Believe me, my dear. Someday, this caravan shall find. Someday, this caravan shall find that new land, that new sky, which is being searched by our wounded eye. This journey is exceedingly hard. This journey is exceedingly hard, but don't be sad. Don't be sad. This is being dedicated to all my postmasters from my mom.
Mr. Faisal, thank you very much for reading that very moving poem, and thank you very much for coming to give evidence and explaining the difficulties you suffered. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
So should we take a short break now,
Yes,
Kennedy?
perhaps for 10 minutes until 1:45.
Certainly, yeah.
Chair, our next witness is Mrs. Suzanne Palmer.
Yeah.
solemnly,
I do solemnly,
sincerely and truly
sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Well done, thank you. Sit down.
I'm really sorry. It's 15 years and 1 month exactly to the day that I had a policewoman stand behind me and I thought I was going to prison. So I'm really nervous, I'm sorry.
Well, don't be nervous. We've got plenty of time.
Okay.
Ms. Kennedy asks her questions in a nice, relaxed manner. And if it happens I want to ask one or two, I'll be the same. So just relax, all right? It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you'll be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
As I think you know, my name's Ruth Kennedy and I ask questions on behalf of the chair. I think you should have 2 witness statements in front of you.
I have, yes.
So turning to your first witness statement, which I think should be dated the 26th of January 2022.
It is.
And if you look on the last page, which I think should be page 20, is that your signature?
It is, yes.
Have you read through this statement recently?
I have.
And is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
As much as I can remember, yes.
And turning then to your second statement, which I think should be dated the 9th of February.
It is, yeah.
Again, is that your signature on the last page, page 9?
Page, sorry.
9, I think it's the last page.
Oh, 79. Yes, it is, yes.
Have you read this through recently?
I have, yes.
And is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
That is, yes.
I'm going to start by asking you a few introductory questions about you.
Okay.
How old are you now?
I'm 62.
How long have you been married?
A long while.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 boys. And they're 43 and 33.
What jobs did you have before you started working for the post office?
Well, when the boys were growing up, I did school dinners, you know, things that fitted in with the boys. And then as they got older, I worked for a cleaning company and I was the area supervisor. Made sure that the staff did what they should do. And then I'd go to the bank managers and find out, just check that they were happy with the staff.
And so how did you end up working in a post office?
Because banks are cleaned early mornings, late evenings, I'd call into the local shop and used to chat to the owner, and he just said one day, why don't you come and work for me? I only lived in the next street. I'd lived there 22 years, and prior to that I'd lived 2 streets the other way to the shop for 11 years. So I knew him, and yeah, I thought, yeah, okay.
And I think that post office was called Swallows Post Office.
It was, yeah.
At the time. And do you remember when you started working there?
I don't remember the year, but I remember working there. I was just a counter clerk, and it was the old-fashioned, you know, the stamp. I go do it like this, you know, like that's how we used to account. And then the Horizon system arrived there. But again, I was only a counter clerk, just did, you know, every day pensions and gyros, and never did any balancing or anything, just 3 mornings a week. So quite happy with that.
And then you went to, I think you say in your statement, work at another post office.
I did. The postmaster where I worked, he was suspended. So I went to work at another local branch within walking distance of my home. So I went there.
I think that was Hambro.
It was, yeah, Hambro.
And then you also worked at another post office for a while, the Bridgewater Drive.
I did. When the postmaster went from Swallows, as it was then, a family member of his took over, and then because it was close to home, I'd still pop in there. And his brother-in-law needed help at Bridgewater Drive, so he said, would I be interested to go in there? So I was quite happy to, love my job. Went to work at Bridgewater Drive, and then he taught me a lot more. You know, he started showing me the end of day balance and things, and then he'd leave me, and I was quite happy like there. And then we heard that Swallows Newsagents was up for sale.
And that was around 2003, is that right?
Bit before that, I think. I can't remember. So in any case, so one day, Jay, he said to me, why don't we buy Swallows Newsagents? You run it and I'll be a silent partner. So went home and told my husband, and I love my job. So he just said to me, if you want it, I'll buy it for you. Sorry. So he did.
And you, when you took over, I think, or maybe slightly afterwards, you changed the name to the Grange Post.
I did. Mr. Patel, as soon as I said I'd buy it and gave him a deposit, he left. And I wasn't the postmistress, but obviously I knew how to run the post office. I knew how to run the shop, loved the shop, but I took on the ongoing staff who'd been there a long while. When I took over, there was an elderly gentleman in the shop, and he'd been there, I don't know how long time. And I never told people I bought it. They always thought he owned it, and I just let them carry on thinking he owned it. So, and because I'd worked there before, my boys went to school round there, we knew everybody. I'd lived there, like, all my life, the majority of my adult life. So we just knew everybody. It was just nice.
And you mentioned your husband bought this for you.
He did.
How did he finance that?
Well, we had savings, and then we put in half in cash, and then I got a business loan. But in order to get the business loan, because I'm quite methodical, I got a Pinder report, which is an old-fashioned thing that just tells you that your business is worth what you're buying. So I did that, and went to the bank and produced, asked them, and they were quite happy. They came, saw the business, didn't need, we had the other half. So, bought the business. The loan was secured against 105 London Road, which was Swallows. Everything was fine. I knew I could afford it because, I don't know how this sounds, but I hadn't really had money jobs. So when I became the postmistress, I knew I could afford the loan. The shop and the post office paid the loan and the business. And my husband just carried on running the home as he'd always done all our lives. It was just that's the way it was. The shop ran the shop and my husband ran the home.
And how did you feel about becoming a sub-postmistress? Was it exciting?
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the shop. I always opened the shop, always. I loved it. Loved early mornings because I'd always done that. And then I'd go home for, when my youngest, because he was, he was a teenager, but he still wanted his mum there when he got up and, sort him out. And, and then I'd be home, or he could come in the shop from school, or, and then I did the post office. I had staff in the shop and staff in the post office. It's fine. Everything was fine.
You mentioned that you received some training on Horizon when you were a counter clerk.
I did, yeah.
What training did you receive when you took over as a sub-postmistress?
I was in the process of buying the shop, and then they had a 3-day training up in London. So I went up and did that, but that was just basic. It wasn't really balancing. It was more to do with the general selling of the products. And because I'd already been there I'd been in other post offices, I obviously knew, and they didn't really, although I was there to help, the other people were saying, how'd you do that? And it was just general. But yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't the balancing. It wasn't. The outgoing postmaster, he left me a manual. You used to have counter weekly for everyday things, and then he just left me a manual that I followed.
And how adequate did you think the training was?
Well, if you were brand new to it and you didn't know what you were doing, then I suppose that's adequate. But if you've already done it and then you're doing the same thing, then it wasn't adequate for me because I needed more to be the manager. Do you see what I mean? You know, to do the end of day, not the end of day balance, the weekly balance and the monthly, the rollover.
And how did you find using the Horizon system?
Yeah, okay, yeah, it wasn't a problem.
I think you then mentioned in your statement you started to begin noticing some shortfalls, is that right?
I did. This was before I was sub-postmistress. And, yeah, first of all, it started like smaller amounts and it was £100, £200, and I'm going to the staff, you've really got to be careful this week, you know, I wasn't accusing them, and I'm just saying to them, because I'm the way I am, and just saying to them, you know, please be really careful because it's cost me 500 this week. So we'd balance, look, check all the stamps, but I'm quite methodical, so before we put anything on the system, I always had a spreadsheet and I always accounted for everything. Everything always, every night had to be counted, all the change, all the cash, had a spreadsheet and it was all put on there. And then we didn't ever put that on the system till we checked, double checked, and the staff did. If I wasn't there in the shop or home or wherever, everybody knew that was the way we run the post office.
Did you use the helpline at all?
Yeah, I think they were my friends and family. I rang them so often because I was new and because I wasn't really, well, I was in charge, but I wasn't the postmaster. I just thought, what am I doing? There's got to be something I'm not doing. So I rang them and I just said to them, I need help. Can you send somebody down to help? Because I said, I don't understand this. I said, I'm trying to work through it. We were really careful. Everybody was, I mean, they were really good. You know, I was trying not to accuse them, but I suppose in a way I was just saying to them, you know, be really careful. And when I rang, it was like they were reading from a manual, like, oh, well, that's question 3B. Oh, yeah, that's the answer. And I just said to them, but you're not answering my question. How can I, if I've put everything in correctly, how is that not balancing with what you've got? There's something happening in between. So I said, get somebody here.
And what did they say to that?
They said, if you put the money in, then it will probably come back as an error or transaction correction. So they take a while to generate and they don't come back. So obviously I'm then putting in more and more money. So then, I don't like to say really, but then obviously I'm having to reduce the staff because then I'm reducing the risk. And it sounds awful, but so I was trying to minimise what was happening because I thought if it's just me and Mo and Bill, who've been with me from the beginning, I thought then you're minimising what's happening. Sorry.
No, don't apologise. And I think in your statement you mentioned a number of the bigger shortfalls that you noted.
Yeah, I do. I had a 1,200 discrepancy. So I rang my husband. I went, "You're just not going to believe today." So because he's busy working, and he came after work. We literally took everything out. We counted every single stamp, everything that was there. It just didn't tally. It just didn't. So I rang the helpline. They told me I've got to put it in. I said, I'm not putting it in unless you can show me where this is wrong. This is wrong. So because I always did a spreadsheet, I did the 10s, 20s, blah, blah, blah. And then in my final column was miscellaneous and Scots and mutilated. So I didn't inflate the figures or didn't think. I accounted for it, but not with my actual cash. Do you see what I mean? At the end, I'd account. I'd accounted for it. I didn't put it in because it was such a large amount. And then a few weeks later, lo and behold, 3,200. So by this time, I'm really not happy with the helpline. So I said, you get somebody here now. So did anybody arrive? No, they sent me reams of paper. It's to do with your scratch cards. It's because this. I said, if you can explain it to me, I'll put it in. But I'm not putting it in until you come and you show me where I'm going wrong. Because at this time, I'm thinking, okay, I've only just taken over. I'm doing it. It's, you know, I felt inadequate. I just thought I can do this. It's Mo and I would do this together. So, and then they sent the auditors in.
And just before we get to the audit,
sorry.
don't apologise. I think you mentioned in your statement there were a number of smaller discrepancies.
Yeah, lots of them. Yeah.
And what would you do when those arose?
Just put them in. Up until the 1,200, the months prior to that, I was just, because as I say, I was new to it. I'm thinking, I'm reading from a manual to balance, so I'm thinking it's got to be me. I'm missing something here.
And as you mentioned, I think the auditors arrived in around October 2005.
They did, yeah.
And how many auditors were there?
2.
And what notes at that stage had you made of the various discrepancies and the shortfalls?
On the spreadsheet and on the Horizon system, but as everybody's said to you before, you get all the paperwork and then we put it all in an envelope, and out the back in the stockroom, I kept everything, and every time I would wrap that spreadsheet around the money. So if I wasn't there, somebody came in, everybody could always see what I'd done, why I'd done it, and why. Because, as I say, they didn't come and they didn't explain it. And I said, until you do, I'm not putting that money in.
And what did the auditors say to you when you told them about these notes?
You can't do that. So I said, no, I know I can't do it, but what was I supposed to do? So I said, perhaps you can explain it. So they just said to me, they counted everything. They said, there's 9,000 missing, and we're taking your post office.
And I think you mentioned in your statement that they called someone else as well, the area manager.
Alan Lusher, yeah.
And you were suspended then?
There and then, yeah. That evening, but they... obviously, I was panicking by then. I felt like I'd been hit with a baseball bat. So I'm thinking, right, okay, I'm running a shop, I've got a post office, I've got staff, and they said that they'd let my assistant take over. She could become the postmistress, providing I guaranteed them I'd never go back in the post office. So obviously I agreed because I needed that post office open. It was part of the shop, part of the business, but I lost that salary instantly.
And just so that I'm sure I'm following your statement correctly, when you talk about that assistant and you mentioned the lady Mo, is that Mrs. M. Upton?
It is, yeah.
Fine, yeah.
And what did they say to you at that time in respect of prosecution?
Well, they didn't really. They just said that they were going to sign it over to Mrs. Upton. Did she want to take it on? So she looked like, rabbit in headlights. But she said, for me, because we'd always worked together, she said, yeah, okay, if we can keep the business open, yeah, that's fine. Because she understood. I mean, everybody who worked there always knew what I'd done. So, yeah. So, and then the next morning, obviously, I was doing the newspapers. Wasn't allowed in the post office. And a lady from the investigation team came, and I'm not allowed in the post office, so she took me out the back, this was the Friday. I showed her everything I'd done. So she said, she sort of understood what I'd done, but she said it's not the correct way of doing it. So then she said, we'll have to interview you, which was on the Monday. So my husband took me up to Enfield, and there was the investigating lady and another lady, and I had a taped interview. But with me, over the weekend, I said to my husband, because they said it was 9,000 missing. So I said to my husband, they've said that there's 9,000 missing, and she did say to me on the Friday, if you correct it, the chances are they won't prosecute you. So on the Monday, when we went to London, I took the money in a carrier bag. I had the money with me because I just thought, discussed it with my husband. He said, just give him the money, Sue. Just give him the money. You know, it'll come back. It will once you've had the interview, and then I had to see the area manager. They'll understand what's happened. They'll understand that there's something somewhere. They'll send somebody and it will be sorted. So we decided that I just took the money. So I said, well, you can't do that. Go back and put it in the... So next morning I took it back, and Mrs Upton put it through the post office. So they said if I did, then they wouldn't prosecute me. So I then had an interview with Alan Lusher. He...
Not too quickly,
Sorry.
if you would. This suggestion to you that if you repaid the money or paid the money, you would likely not be prosecuted.
Likely not be prosecuted.
That was said to you on that in the interview on the Monday, yeah? Is that?
On the Friday, so I took the money up on the Monday.
You took the money.
Yeah.
Was that repeated to you on the Monday, or was that not said?
To be honest, I wouldn't like to say 100% because they taped the interview. It was a long time. Obviously, they asked me if I wanted somebody with me or a rep, so I said, no, I'm fine. So went and did the interview. Carried on running the shop. Mo ran the post office. I said to her, any discrepancies, it'll be sorted. So I know that they've made her temporary sub-postmistress, but I said the responsibility is still mine. I didn't want her to worry. So anything that happened, and then 3 months, I think it must have been 3 months later, I was waiting for a letter to say that, you know, I went and saw Alan Lusher, sorry. Yeah. I had the interview with him, was waiting for a decision on what would happen, and then I got a phone call, and she just said to me out of the blue, I'm sorry. She said, not good news for you. She said, they're going to prosecute you. So I rang Alan Lusher and I said, they're prosecuting me. So he said, it's the prosecution is decided by an outside body. It's separate to the post office, I think. It's I can't remember. But because he said, although I'd done it wrong, it wasn't malicious. I didn't... it wasn't like I'd inflated the figures. I'd accounted for it, but accounted wrongly. Does that? I know what I mean, but that's what I meant. In any case, so that was in the April. I then had to go to Basildon Magistrates Courts.
How did you, just pausing there, how did you feel when you found out you were going to be prosecuted?
Oh my God, she rang me in the morning. By the afternoon, I was at the solicitors because I said to them, I have done nothing wrong. So I told them everything, went through everything with them, and really they dealt with the legal side. I didn't tell my boys because I thought the misunderstanding at the post office would be sorted. So I didn't actually tell them until they told me they were going to prosecute me. Sorry.
Please don't apologise.
So, my oldest son, I mean, that sounds like a tragic case, but because of the stress, my husband couldn't deal with it. And because when you see somebody you love going through something horrendous, he had a heart attack. So he then couldn't really deal with everything. And so my eldest son, who was absolutely brilliant, he never left my side. All through, he said, just get everything, Mum, it'll be sorted, don't worry. So I went to Basildon Magistrates Court. They said they're going to transfer it to the Crown Court, which they did. I had a date just before Christmas and they adjourned that, and then I had a date of the 23rd of January 2007.
And prior to your trial, what were the post office or their lawyers saying to you?
That I didn't have any correspondence with them at all. Everything was dealt through my thing. It was only at the court that they said to me, if you plead guilty, you'll get, the chances are you'll just get a community service. If you don't plead guilty, we will put you in prison. I said, I'm not pleading guilty because I've done nothing wrong. So they said, my sons and my husband said, stand there, Mum, stand proud, and you tell them, you've done nothing wrong. And that's what I did. So they put me through a 3-day trial, was found not guilty on all charges, took about 10 minutes to decide. In fact, we went out the courtroom and my barrister and solicitor said, oh, go and get a cup of tea. It could take, takes a while. And then they said, Palmer to room 2, or Mrs. Palmer to room 2. And I walked back in, and as I walked into the dock, a policewoman come and stood behind me. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to prison. And they found me not guilty on all counts. So you can imagine, I was unbelievable. So I was really happy. Went to, the usher lady came up and she hugged me, and so she said, we're just so sorry. She said that you had to go through that. She said, and then as we left, I saw 2 of the jurors, and they said they knew within like 10 minutes, half hour, that I just hadn't done anything. And luckily for me, while the trial was on, one of the jurors said she wanted to ask a question, and they said, Mrs. Palmer rang you and asked you what she was supposed to do because she didn't agree with the the error, the discrepancy. And the barrister turned to the post office over there, and they couldn't answer either because they couldn't actually tell me what I was supposed to do while it was sorted out. So obviously then I was found not guilty. So here we go, I'm happy, off I go home, walk in the shop, I've looked at the girls, so I'm thinking, well, at least look happy for me, but here I am. They held the newspaper up. Post-mistress guilty of stealing the money. The newspaper preempt the verdict for the Friday because you sell more newspapers. Back then, it was jobs and cars and that, and the local paper was bigger news on a Friday. But she hadn't waited for the verdict, so then she put that I was police interviewed, that I'd stolen lottery, charitable money, because I took it home. You name it. But I'd had, when I was in the shop, because, I thought it was a lovely, friendly place, and the girls in the front of the shop, they started to do a petition for me. So we had 600 signatures. But I said to them, don't just put your signature, because if they want to check, I said, they can then ring anybody and check that if you put your phone number or your address, they can check that I haven't just made up these people, imaginary people. So, yeah, about 600 signatures. And all them people, they supported me right the way through, the customers, it was lovely. not lovely because I was being prosecuted, but do you know what I mean? It wasn't, people stood by me, but of course once the newspaper put Post Mistress guilty, you can imagine.
I think you also mentioned in your statement that the person who took over your post office for you, your friend who'd been working with you, she came
Oh, I
to
forgot
court
that,
with you.
yeah.
And
I didn't forget, but tried to forget.
And what happened there?
They, Mo came to the, I had a local businessman, Swallows News Aquatics, which was a big customer, business customer. He came and gave evidence for me. Bill, who worked with me, and Mo, because she was my manager. My husband, he was at the court with us, and they went up and they said if she gives evidence on my behalf, they will prosecute her as well because she knew what I was doing. So she was beside herself, and my husband said, Sue wouldn't expect to. She had young children. Mine were old, or older, but we wouldn't expect her to do that. So my husband said to her, we wouldn't want you to do it. So after I was found not guilty in that, not long after, a few months after, she left me because
And when you say they,
the post office barristers or post office...
I'd like you to be as precise as possible.
Okay.
I know it's a long time ago, but was it an employee of the post office as you understood it, or was it one of the lawyers who said
It was their legal team.
one of their legal?
Yeah,
And was it said to a member of your legal team?
yeah, to my legal
So it was lawyer to lawyer.
Yeah, and then they said, because they tried to, because obviously, you can imagine I was in a right state, they tried to keep it all away from me, my son and my husband, and they said to Mo, it's up to you, but Sue wouldn't expect you to do that. I wouldn't want anybody to go through what I've been through, so, yeah, so it's really difficult, and yeah.
And after that, I think you say they terminated your contract, the post office.
They did. I don't really remember it because at the time, because of the trial, and we thought everything would be, I'd be reinstated because in my book, not guilty means not guilty. So I thought they've got to reinstate me. Okay. And when they didn't, because of the stress and that, my husband was really ill again, and then he had to have a triple heart bypass. So I was dealing with him up in Barts, the shop, life. It was a nightmare.
What payment did you receive from them on your termination, the post office, that is?
Oh, I didn't. Oh, they paid me, I think, when they audited me, which was October, I forget which date it was. I honestly can't say. I think I got the few days' pay, and then obviously the remuneration went to somebody else. But yeah, instantly. So then I've got a husband who can't work, obviously. I've got a shop I can't pay the bills on. My whole world's come in. But my husband worked really hard, and we had nice things. So we sold them, whatever, just to keep the business going. We sold the car. I worked and lived within walking distance, so sold the car. It's only a piece, it's only a car. My husband, we bought a new van we paid cash for. But obviously he couldn't go to work, so that was surplus. But we didn't have any no credit cards. All the wholesalers I always paid cash because that's the way I am. The shop paid for itself, as I say, and the post office salary paid the loan, the bills. But then, of course, I've got no income at home either. So I'm trying to make everything go everywhere, and that's not happening.
How much would you estimate your overall financial losses were caused by? How much was caused by all of this, your losses?
What, you mean the loss of my home, the loss of the business, the loss of my family? You put a price on my family then?
No, we'll come to your family, but just at the moment, just your financial losses, because you've
I paid 150,000 for the business. Then stock at value, we put in a new post office for them that my husband built, that he did for me. Thousands. Wiped out.
And I think you say in your statement that you were made bankrupt, you were forced into bankruptcy.
We tried, as I say, I had my husband, I was lucky. My husband had bought me nice jewellery, nice things. We had a nice car, we had a nice van, we had a nice home. The boys were grown up, life. I didn't even need the business. Gone off track. So I sold everything I had, sold. They're things, aren't they?
When was the bankruptcy discharged?
2016.
Where do you live now?
Oh.
In terms of, sorry, to be clear, you previously mentioned in your statement about the big house that you lived in.
I had a lovely home. My husband had put an extension on it. We'd lived there 22 years. That was my family home. And we even decided to sell the house. We just thought, the boys aren't there, sell the house. I needed an income. So the shop was the best option to keep the shop. So sold the house. Well, the estate agent came round at 9 o'clock in the morning on the Wednesday, and by 3 o'clock it had been sold. So, weight off your mind, thank God for that. A customer in the shop, he had a bungalow that he said we could move into until he sold it. So that, I had somewhere to go. The solicitors got in touch with me, sent me a letter. The bank had attached the loan from the business onto my home. So obviously I had no way of paying that off. And couldn't afford the mortgage then, couldn't afford the loan, and they repossessed the house. But moved into the bungalow, and then the guy there, he was selling, and we were homeless. He issued us with the Section 21, and we were homeless. But my boys had bought me a little... So the council gave us this, it's not a flat, it's a studio. But my boys, 12 years ago, bought me a little Westie, a little dog. And they wouldn't let me take him. Sorry. So I had to give him up. So I thought, do you know what you've taken? Literally. Sorry. You've taken everything from me.
You mentioned in your second witness statement that you were a member, I think, of the group litigation.
I was, yeah.
How much compensation did you receive for that?
I got a bit, but like everybody, like me, or I don't know if you've just got this cloud above my head. We got a small payment, everybody, and then they settled the rest from the, what was left after the costs and, all that. So I just thought, at least we'll have some money. And my son, which I'll come to later, my son who had taken over the business, he got 5 times more than I did. So I went absolutely mad. And I got in touch with Bruce and I said, well, now perhaps you can explain this to me then. So then I had to fight for that as well. So they did up the amount, but because I was a bankrupt by then, they took administration and then 42%. So minimal.
I think you've also recently written to the Minister Paul Scully about obtaining further compensation.
Oh, I told you, I've got this black cloud above my head because in the August, after the Freeths and all that, and Alan, I mean, I wouldn't be here today without Alan and the group. You know, they've done everything they could for us. But on the news comes postmasters, compensation. They're overturned. They're overturning the things. You're going to get an interim payment and 100,000 as an interim payment. So I'm thinking, so people are texting me, ringing me. That's good, Sue, because you're. So I rang Howe and Co. Spoke to David Enright, and I said, "Oh, I was prosecuted by the post office. How do I go about claiming for my interim payment?" And he said, "When was your conviction overturned?" So I said, "No, I wasn't convicted. I pleaded not guilty and was found not guilty. And I'm not entitled to that." So I said, "Well, how does that work then? Because I've lost everything." So I then wrote to Paul Scully and I asked him politely why I wasn't included. And then I got a letter in December and he said, "You're part of the JS, you know, blah, 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 the group." So I said, "Okay." So then I said, "I want a face-to-face meeting with you then, because I want to tell you why I'm not as important as everybody else, because you dragged me through the courts. I didn't even owe any money when I went to the court. I've lost everything. So I want you to explain to me why I'm not as important as everybody else." And don't get me wrong, anybody who went I've listened to the stories and my heart breaks for them. But I'm fighting for me here. I'm fighting for me and my husband. And then I got a letter. I can't remember the dates. I can't remember. But, "Dear Mrs. Palmer, blah, blah, blah. You are included in the compensation, even if you were, the people who were prosecuted and have had their convictions overturned, but included are the people who were prosecuted even though they're not found guilty." And I have that letter in black and white from Paul. I'll tell you what, I've never been so happy. We was up all night. David Enright, he couldn't get in his office quick enough. I don't think he'd even taken his coat off before I was on the phone. I'm ringing him, euphoric. I've told everybody, at last. Oh no, this black cloud above my head, 3 weeks later, I've misunderstood him. The letter was, "You've misunderstood what I put in the letter." So I wrote back, I went, "There's no misunderstanding. You've backtracked on what you've said to me. So no, I'm not entitled to the compensation."
And how do you feel about that?
Well, I think that shows, doesn't it? How do you explain? I fought for myself and my husband and my boys. And now, and through the JSFA, they won't give the compensation that's due. We can't have the costs that are due. I mean, so much was taken from that. And now I'm not entitled to this. I just think, oh, really? Sorry, gone on.
Please don't apologise. I'm now going to ask you some questions about the impact this has had on your family, which we've touched upon before. Perhaps first, if you could tell us about the impact it's had on your relationship with your husband.
My husband supported me with whatever I've done, but it broke him. And that's not why he's not here today, because we got the letter from Paul Scully and we thought it's going to be put right. And it's not, is it? And I know, Swin, you can recommend, but it's not going to get me the money, is it?
What about the impact on your relationship with your son, Kevin?
Oh, right, okay. Going back to the shop, I told you that Kevin was with me, 100%. Without him, I'd have probably crumpled as well, but he was so good. And then once they wouldn't reinstate me. The post office had put in a temporary sub-postmaster, but he turned up at 9:30 if he liked, shut for lunch, go home when he liked, once he balanced. And I rang Alan Lusher and I said, he's ruining me. My customers are used to that post office being open at 9 till 5:30. They rely on us. So obviously Kevin knew what had happened. He had a really good job in the city. A really good job. And he gave it up to come to work for me. He said, I'll run the post office, Mum. My husband didn't want him to, and his future wife didn't. But we're so close, or were, that, he gave up his job for me. Came, took over, but I just couldn't keep it going. As I said to you, I sold everything, I did what I could, but obviously he'd given up a job, committed to the money. The post office salary had to, he did what he could to give back to the shop, but everything was based on the post office because it was like, quite a large remuneration. My business plan, when I bought the post office, I had to have a business plan. It all included the post office salary. And in the end, I was trying to pay this, pay that. As I say, I sold everything. Then the wholesalers, as I say, I'd always pay cash. And then because I'd been at the wholesalers so long, they were really good to me. They knew about my husband because it's all friendly, even though it's up in we'd gone so often, for years we'd just gone up and everybody knew him. He'd do the buying sometimes, or we'd go together. And they let us have credit, but then, of course, the shop's not making as much as it should because of the impact of what's happened. And then I'm paying this bill. I'll pay this week. And the landlord wasn't particularly helpful. 1 quarter, he said, I'm going to lock the door. So managed to pay that. Then the next quarter, I was drowning, absolutely, trying to keep it away from my husband because obviously he's trying to recover. Kevin and I are arguing because obviously he needs the shop stocked in order to get the customers in order for the post office. It was just snowballing out of my control. And then the landlord, he said if I didn't pay, I was a bit late paying that quarter, and he said he'd padlock the door. My youngest son went and borrowed the money from somebody, gave it to me, and I just pushed it back to him, and I went, the end. This is the end. No, we've never borrowed. This is it. And I said to Kevin, I'm going to sell. And things went downhill from then. I felt I ruined his life because if I sold, he'd be jobless. And so relations between us broke down, and the next thing I know, we barely spoke. Well, we did speak, but I don't really want to discuss it. And I had a letter from the landlord that I'd be liable for the rest of the lease. Even if I gave the keys back, I'd be liable for the lease until the lease ran out. So Kevin said he'd take over the lease. So I signed the business over for nothing. And then he took the post office, and as you'll hear this afternoon, the same thing happened to him. But that's his story. But yeah, I have for 33 years, I had a perfect son. I don't even know who he is. My granddaughters I don't see.
What would you like from the post office now?
What would I like? Well, somebody must be accountable, because when they took me to court, they'd already prosecuted lots of people for the same thing. So they knew when they took me So I think that they need to be accountable. They need to be accountable for what they did. And because I won, they had to pay all the costs, which was 78,000. I felt they told me it was just me. It was like they were making an example of me, because at the court I wouldn't, they did pressurise me, and I was scared. And if I'd have listened to these stories that I know now from all these other people, I'd have probably pled guilty, because I tell you what, if I'd have pled guilty, I'd be better off than I am now. Not emotionally, but financially. I'd be okay, but I'm not okay, because I stood for what I believed.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to the Chair?
Oh, I think he's heard enough, bless him.
It's not often I get blessed, so thank you very much.
Well, I'm just so passionate about it. They should put it right. It should be right. Like Nick Reed says that he's sent out 2,500 letters and people haven't replied because they're scared. He's got 555 in front of him, right in front of him. I'm standing here. Where's my compensation? Because he don't want to pay me, does he? Why? It's just another way. I just feel, I don't know, where's the justice? And all I ever think is, what did I ever do? I bought a post office. Or my husband did. That's it.
Chair, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Thanks very much. I think what we'll do is, Mr. Steen, I think at some point you have a statement to read. Is that correct? So that's right. So if we just adjourn for maybe not much more than 5 minutes, do you think you could fit that in before lunch, or do you want to do it this afternoon?
So, yes, I think I can. If I did encroach into lunch, it would only be a few minutes.
That's fine. Well, unless anybody is objecting, what I propose is that we just have a short break, and then we'll hear from Mr. Steen, and then break off for lunch. Thank you. Thank you for providing us with hard copies of the statement, Mr. Steen. Over to you.
Thank you. So, as you know, I'll be reading a summary of the statement of Mrs. Rita Threllfall. Chair, Mrs. Rita Threllfall was due to give evidence to you today. She greatly wished to do so, but she has found that it was impossible to speak about her experiences without breaking down. Rita Threllfall has been married to her husband for 48 years. Before becoming a postmistress, Rita worked in the finance department for a large engineering firm for 22 years. Rita and her husband wanted a change of life and decided, after research, to apply to run a post office. They invested £105,000 into the post office and shop, £35,000 from their savings, as well as a loan of £70,000. Rita became the postmistress of the Ford post office in Liverpool. She ran it from the 15th of January 1998 to the 16th of August 2010. Rita received a mere 1.5 days training on the Horizon system. Rita experienced problems with the Horizon system a few years after it was introduced. She says that she cannot remember how many times she called the helpline. Rita says the helpline didn't want to do anything. I was just told to wait until the issue went away or to call back the following day. Problems began to arise in approximately 2004. During her time as a postmistress, she paid, or Post Office Limited deducted from her salary, in excess of £9,000. However, the Post Office also pursued Rita for further large shortfalls and brought criminal charges against her. As a result of large shortfalls arising on the Horizon system, Rita was suspended in July of 2009 and interviewed under caution the following month by a post office fraud investigator. Rita is disabled and cannot walk. Upon arrival for the interview under caution, she was left in a hallway. She asked for a chair, but one was not brought. Rita had to sit on the stairs. The interview room was upstairs. Rita told the post office investigators that she could not climb the stairs, and she was placed in a tiny parcel lift to be carried up to be interviewed. Rita says the interview was horrendous. Her contract was terminated and the post office prosecuted her. Rita received a summons to attend the Magistrates' Court on the 20th of December 2012, where she was charged with theft and false accounting. Rita pleaded not guilty, and the case went to the Crown Court. Rita believed that she would go to prison. She could not think how she would cope in prison, given her disabilities. Rita thought she would die if she went to prison, and she considered suicide. Her health was in serious decline. Rita's solicitors contacted Alan Bates of the JFSA, who spoke to the post office on her behalf. An expert report was commissioned, and that report concluded that Rita was unable to attend court. Eventually, the post office dropped the charges against Rita. Rita says that the consequences of being required to make good the shortfalls were that she and her husband lost their business and their livelihood. Rita says that they used everything they had to cover the shortfalls, including borrowing money from family members. She says that her children would bring food around to feed her and her husband, and that her children helped her pay the bills. Rita says she was left with absolutely nothing, not a single penny, and had to file for bankruptcy. Rita lost her home and had to move away from her lifelong Liverpool home as a result of the damage to her reputation. Rita now lives with her daughter and son-in-law because she cannot afford to pay rent for a home of her own. She says that her health has suffered immensely. She cannot walk more than 10 feet, and any doctors that need to see her have to come out. That's because she cannot leave the house to attend doctors or dental appointments and cannot attend routine screening checks. Rita says that she suffers from severe anxiety and depression and has no social life outside of her family. She says, "I don't live, I exist." Rita's husband says in her statement, "Seeing my wife being a pillar of the community and watching her to be brought to her knees through lies and false allegations by the post office absolutely destroyed me. I've stood by my wife and always will. But on more than one occasion, I thought I would lose her. The scandal almost got both of us. What they did was so wrong. They gave me sleepless nights and complete hopelessness for our future. Seeing Rita lose weight and the will to live brought me to my knees. All I could do was stand by and try to support her, but the post office nearly caused our marriage to break down." Rita has, in addition, asked that I read the following comments to you, and I will try to do so. Dear Sir Win, I left my home in Liverpool, a place I loved 7 years ago, leaving behind my brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews who are an integral part of my life. They all supported me physically and emotionally through the darkest days of my life. I could not cope with how my life changed. I turned into a virtual recluse, afraid of everything and anything. I had to get away, and that was at the cost of only seeing those members of my family occasionally, whereas it would be daily. I now know that was a sacrifice too far. I miss them so much. Both of my children made the move with my husband and myself uprooting their own young families. They have been amazing in supporting us, but that leaves me with enormous guilt. So in September 2014, we boxed up our belongings and our life and moved 50 miles away, where no one knew us. We brought only clothes and sentimental items. The majority of those boxes are as they were when we packed them and have never been opened. The post office took so much from us, but they also took my identity. I don't recognize myself anymore. I have lost Rita Threllfall. I want to open those boxes that are stored away and have our personal items around us once again. I want to put the photos of our grandchildren back on the walls and all the things that make a house a home that we gather over the years. I want my son and daughter to have their homes back. I want my family to have peace and do the things that we did as a family when ours was a happy family. I want to look in the mirror and recognize myself, the person I once was, not the shadow that looks back at me now.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you for the opportunity of reading that.
Right. Well, that's very good timing, and we'll start again at 2 o'clock.